sometimes you get something right, and it doesn't need a sequel, even though you want to give it a sequel because money.
Right.
But
That's what it is too, it's like money, and I get it, like, if it's all the same writers and the same actress and all that stuff, sure, you can capture the magic again, right? Like, you can capture it twice, but it's at the risk of ruining the legacy, so then we always have to put that fucking caveat
yeah,
where Game of Thrones is the best show on TV, but
yeah, yeah.
it had one of the endings of all time, so it's like, that
That's
just I hate that every time I talk about Game of Thrones, I kinda somehow the conversation ends up going to even with random coworkers and stuff, it always ends up going in this direction of like, "Oh, man, but that ending."
yeah, that ending. Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and that's why Game of Thrones was so good because when it was made, George Double R had so much of it planned in his head that he thought about and as he wrote. When you make a season two to something, in my opinion, you got to kind of know you're going to make a season two before you make season one. Like when you're writing
I
a
agree.
story, you can't, because what happens is somebody writes a really good story and it comes to a conclusion, and then it becomes really successful, and they go, well, now we got to make a season two because it was successful. But the story that you wrote wasn't written for a season two, three,
Right.
etc.
It wasn't
And
written with that in
so
mind.
now it feels it so like Squid Game. So we talked this in the Squid Game episode. I think Squid Game as a show really enjoyable. I liked it, and then the
Same.
teaser at the end to kind of tease a season two felt like, but
An
why?
afterthought. Yeah, it really did feel like an afterthought. Like, it's almost like they filmed everything up to a certain point, and then the part where he dyes his hair and goes to the airport and turns around was like an afterthought. It was
Yeah,
actually an added scene at the end of everything, right? Like
yeah,
he wins the
yeah.
money, he's able to support his kid and all this other stuff, and he's about to go see his kid. And instead they said, let's reshoot this months later because we want to do a season two because this is blowing up. And they added that to the end of it. And that's kind of what it feels like an actual afterthought, not like
Mm-hmm.
something that was originally planned. And that's our problem with it. This has also happened with the Queen, not the Queen's Gambit. This also happened with The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale season one is perfectly based on the first book. Well, the only book actually. And now it's on like season 4 or 5. When I tell you that show got so fucking bad, it got so outrageously bad. Okay,
So
it was
funny.
there was a point where me and Medina used to watch it. So season one was amazing, like I said, it was based on a book, and it ended the same way. Where at the end of it, she's about to get into like the back of a van or something like that, and it kind of just ends on its cliffhanger. That's how the book ends as well. And then, of course, money and ratings and stuff like that. They were like, okay, well, we gotta continue this story, and you can just tell what Kenny said is so true. You could just tell season two, season three are literally made up bullshit.
Yep.
They're so ridiculous. When we got to the end of season two, I think it was the end of season two. When we got to the end of season two, I literally said to him, I am not watching any more of this. I'm good. Like, I am good on this. And he agreed. And I think when season three came out, we both watched the first 2 episodes just to see what it was going to be about. And we never went back.
Yeah.
We never, ever went back. We watched the first 2 episodes of season three and we realized this is one of the worst shows. There are some scenes like continuity gets fucked up, which is one of the things that I hate the most. It's stuff you can just tell when people don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the Starbucks it's the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones, right? It's don't even care about the quality anymore. There
Yep.
were certain continuity issues that were happening in The Handmaid's Tale season 2 that we just started laughing at. Like we would
How did
rewind
this
and
even
laugh like
happen?
yeah, like look at this. Look at this
Yeah.
nonsense. It got that bad and I can't take it seriously because I know that Rushed one this came out a year or two after the first series. So you didn't take that much time to develop the material, right? Like
Mm-mm.
cuz you had to shoot it too. And shooting it takes months. So you didn't
Yeah.
take that much time to actually write a cohesive story to follow the original book. It was just bad. And it left a bad taste in my mouth. And every time I think about the Handmaid's Tale, every time somebody brings it up, the only thing I can think about is God, the way that show started to go, the just
It's so
nosedive
frustrating because if it just stayed as season one, you wouldn't have to have those thoughts. You
at
could just
all.
think
I
about
would.
how great it is. But
It's
instead,
so
it
good.
has 17 seasons, and you're like, why does it have this many seasons? It's funny, during our little intermission, uh, um, I found out there's this show that I've never seen it, but I it was brought to my attention. There's this show called Teen Wolf, right? And
Oh
apparently
yeah, I've heard of
and
it.
apparently it's like getting a movie, right? And like I don't know, some drama happened with it. But the point that I'm bringing up that's relevant to the point you're making is that apparently it started off as an okay show, and then one of the seasons was like actually really good, and then it just tanked and it was the worst show ever made. And I made a guess because I was like, is like are all the characters wolves or just like one guy? And it's like the main boy's a wolf. And I was like, and the person he falls in love with, she's like a girl from like a family of wolf hunters, I guess, right? And it's like, yep. It's like, how'd I know? Like, how'd I know?
Oh my god.
Like, how'd I know?
I've never
but
seen Teen Wolf for
but it's just
myself,
funny
but
because I thought of that because you mentioned that, and it's like that stuff happens where like sometimes the show can start off okay, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how'd this get so like this shit's insane, and then it
yeah.
just like will tank again, and you're like, oh well, all right, it was fun while it lasted.
I think Vampire Diaries has some of that. Vampire Diaries is a show that I really loved the first several seasons. It's like one of the best shows ever. And there are moments in the Vampire Diaries. First of all, that show's made me cry. There are some really sad things that happen. There are some really intense moments. Like that show's really good at building tension where you're literally holding your breath without realizing it.
Mm.
You're just not breathing. And it's really good while it's good. But when I tell you that I didn't even finish the Vampire Diaries because I guess the second to the last season is where I probably stopped. It got so bad. It just got so outrageously bad that I had to question how did we get here?
Mm-hmm.
Like how did the story get to this point where this is what's happening and you guys thought that this was okay? How did this get greenlit? I feel like it's going too long, and that's what happens as well. Certain things just go too long. People tell me about Supernatural and how great it is, and then but they say there's a rough patch though in about the 14th or 15th season. You can skip those two seasons and just watch just go to 16 and it should be fine. It should be just go to 16
Bro, let me tell
and
you
you should
something though.
go
If I
from 14
watch
to 16.
if I watch 13 seasons of a show, I'm watching season 14. Like I'm not gonna watch 13 seasons and
Bro.
then go and then skip a season. Like that's
So you know how
crazy.
wild I was looking at Silverman when he was like, just skip, like you could just skip. Nothing good happens this season. You could just skip this season and just go straight to 16 and then continue from six. I was like, are you joking or are you being serious? Why the fuck would I watch that much of it and then start skipping it at the end? Like that doesn't make any sense. He
Oh
told me to do the
man.
same thing with Titans. That show called Titans, I believe. He said that
Yeah,
season
skip season 1
3.
and 2, right?
Yeah, okay. I remember I brought
Yeah,
this
you
up on the
told me.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me to skip seasons 1 and 2. I was like, hold on a minute. Hold on. Wait one god darn minute. How you gonna tell somebody you gotta watch this show? It's insane, but skip seasons 1 and 2. You so fucking nuts. You so fucking nuts.
Oh my god. That is some of the most absurd shit I've ever. But dude, people say
Silverman's unhinged.
the
I can't
thing
wait
is
to
though,
have him on the
people
podcast.
will say like, dude, you gotta watch Naruto. Just skip to Shippuden. It's like, excuse me?
Yeah, like what are you talking about? That's such an unhinged thing to say. So, and he the bad part is he's not the only one who has said things like that to me, like just skip this entire, and they're not talking about filler.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
talking about absolute source material. Like, oh yeah, this was good, but just don't watch this at all.
You know what the other
And
problem with that is too
I can't
though?
do that.
Is like people will say that, right? And then like you'll watch a show and somebody will be like, just skip season 5. And you'll be like, all right, whatever. And then if for whatever reason you watch the show one day, like and you watch 4 seasons of it, you're not going to skip season 5 because why
There's
the
no
hell
way.
would you?
There's
But
no
then you
way.
watch season 5 and you're like, this actually isn't that bad. What? And you're like, it's just funny
Yeah,
because
you make up your own mind at the end of the day.
yeah, you make up your own mind, but you realize sometimes like this is what happens. We've talked about this before. Sometimes the culture of the internet gets in, and like something
Yeah.
happens on the internet, and the internet decided that season 5 was bad, and then you get swept up in that because you're in that like mode at that moment. You're watching
That
it with everybody else, and you get swept up in that. Oh, this one does suck. But then if you watch it on your own, you're like, oh, it's fine. It's not.
One Punch Man season 2 is a victim of that. I will defend One Punch Man season 2 hard as hell. I really don't appreciate the way the internet tried to basically review bomb it
Mm.
because of the animation and stuff, and just say that the season 2 is just not very good. When season 2 introduced Garo, who is probably the most complex character that we have so far,
Oh, for
and
sure.
I just don't get. I mean, we spent a good portion of our One Punch Man episode, which was relatively recent, with a good portion just talking about Garo. and how he defended that kid, and he's he's a villain, and the reason why he's a villain because he got bullied by people who said they were the heroes, and everything around his character. I thought that season 2 was insane, and don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that season 1's animation wasn't superior and that season 1 wasn't a good season. But I personally, like, from a storyline perspective, from a plot perspective, I thought season 2 was just superior.
Yeah,
It just simply was. It wasn't superior as far as animation goes, but I can deal with the animation not being Demon Slayer level if the story's going to actually get somewhere and develop and give me a character. Like the same reason why I think Stranger Things season 4 is brilliant, because Vecna is an actual villain with a backstory who has real motivations. It's not just literally Saitama going around, which is what season 1 was. Saitama literally going around punching everything one time and basically beating it, except the Boros dude at the end or whatever. Like that, those things are cool, right? Like all of that is cool, and the animation is dope and stuff like that. But it is nice to get some good plot, and people just like shadow on One Punch Man season 2, basically just constantly talking about the animation. And when I watched it, I went into it thinking, all right, I didn't. First of all, the thing that really pissed me off is that I didn't watch it at first for so long because I all the bad reviews. Like I actually did watch it, and it put such a bad taste in my mouth that it made me not even want to go into it. And then when I finally watched it, the first episode when Garo beats the ass of like those tank top people, and he said, "I hate using this style," and he switched into that Fang style, that water style. I immediately was like, "This shit is fire." No pun intended. Like this is, I don't know what people were talking about. And then the rest of the season was so funny. It was like Tom impersonating that guy and putting on that wig and all that, and having to keep it on the whole tournament. And I just thought everything about One Punch Man that I liked in season 1 really just translated into season 2. Like it was funny, fights were good, the choreography was good, and then it introduced a cool character and it had good plot and all of this stuff. And so yeah, the whole group thing can really fuck with you.
Hey guys, if you like this clip, we have full video versions of our podcast episodes available on the I Am Nerd Patreon, as well as exclusive content.
If you'd like to listen to our full podcast episodes or find us on any other social media platforms, you can do so by clicking the link tree below.